Daniel Cormier, a UFC Hall of Famer and former two-division champion, has publicly voiced his strong opposition to the recent decision by the Association of Boxing Commissions in Combative Sports, ABC, to lift the long-standing ban on 12-6 elbow strikes in mixed martial arts, MMA. The controversial rule change, which is set to be implemented in November, represents a significant shift in the Unified Rules of MMA, which have been in place since 2000. For over 2 decades, 12-6 elbow strikes, delivered directly downward from a high position, have been illegal in MMA due to concerns about their potential to cause severe injury. The move to lift this ban has sparked a heated debate within the MMA community, with some seeing it as a necessary evolution of the sport, while others fear it could lead to a regression into more dangerous and less regulated forms of combat. Cormier, who is known for his analytical insights and deep understanding of the sport, shared his concerns during an episode of his popular show, Funky and the Champ, co-hosted with fellow former fighter Ben Askren. Cormier explained that while he understands the reasoning behind the decision, he ultimately disagrees with it, believing that it could take the sport in a dangerous direction. "I don't like that," Cormier stated emphatically. "I don't like 12-6 elbows, and I don't like soccer kicks. I do not want to see soccer kicks. My fear is that by legalizing 12-6 elbows, we're opening the door to making MMA look more like a street fight, which is exactly what the sport works so hard to move away from." Cormier went on to elaborate on his concerns, drawing from his own experience as a fighter. He recounted a fight against Anthony "Rumble" Johnson, in which he was able to land an elbow strike with a slight arch, which was legal under the current rules. However, he emphasized that the difference between that strike and a straight-down 12-6 elbow is minimal, yet the latter is perceived as far more dangerous. "I was able to cut Rumble with an arching elbow, but it really did come straight down," Cormier explained. "It was very little in terms of not being straight up and down. The concern here is that once you start allowing 12-6 elbows, it's a slippery slope. What's next? Are we going to bring back soccer kicks? Are we going to start allowing more and more dangerous techniques?" The prospect of soccer kicks, brutal strikes delivered to the head of a downed opponent, a technique seen in the early, regulated days of MMA, seems to be a particular point of concern for Cormier. He fears that lifting the ban on 12-6 elbows could lead to a loosening of other rules, ultimately taking the sport back to a time when it was criticized for its extreme violence. Cormier referenced the late Senator John McCain, who famously referred to MMA as human cockfighting in the 1990s, a perception that the sport has worked hard to change over the years by implementing stricter rules and safety measures. Cormier's apprehensions also touch on the broader issue of how the sport is perceived by the public and regulatory bodies. MMA has come a long way from its early days, evolving into a highly regulated and widely accepted sport. However, Cormier believes that any move that makes the sport appear more brutal could undo years of progress. The decision to lift the 12-6 elbow ban has also reignited discussion about one of the most infamous moments in UFC history: John Jones' disqualification in 2009 for landing several 12-6 elbows on Matt Hamill. That disqualification remains the only loss on Jones' otherwise undefeated record. UFC President Dana White has long supported the idea of overturning Jones' loss, and the recent rule change could potentially bolster that argument. However, for Cormier, the issue goes beyond one fight or one fighter. It's about the future direction of the sport he loves. Cormier's stance has sparked widespread discussion within the MMA community, with some agreeing with his concerns and others arguing that the sport must continue to evolve. As the November implementation date approaches, it remains to be seen how this rule change will impact the sport and whether Cormier's concerns will prove to be well-founded.